I think it's like an old-timey word that like fancy people use.
Yeah.
And so it's like supper, excuse me?
Supper?
Yeah.
Why are you using supper when dinner's sitting right there?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's really the thing. Hello, welcome to Guide to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm her little brother, William.
And this week, we are going to be reading and answering more of your listener questions. A bunch of you out there were awesome enough to send stuff into our email address, gttupod@gmail.com, and we hang on to them. We hoard them until the time is right. And guess what? The time is mwah.
Time couldn't be better.
That's right.
I've always said I retain. And now we're holding on to all of your questions. We're finally going to answer them. I know a lot of you have been dying for us to enlighten you on a few topics.
Totally. So we have questions about movies. We have horror hot takes for us to give our opinion on.
Wonderful.
It should be fun little springboards for conversation, Will.
Oh, delightful. I'm thrilled about it. And as you listen to these questions, if you think of any questions of your own you'd like to hear us answer in a future episode, you can always send those to gttupod@gmail.com.
Yep.
So, all right, let's answer some questions after this commercial break.
Okay. William, the first questions we have are in a nice little batch from our listener, Finn.
Great.
Okay.
Hello, Finn.
Hello, Finn. All right, the first one, did you see the Suspiria remake?
I did.
Okay, so first one says, Suspiria 2018 is as good as, if not better than, Suspiria original. Similarly, Us is as good as Get Out, and its ambiguities make it more rewarding on rewatch. Thoughts?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit of a hot take and a little bit of a question. First of all, do you agree with Finn's? Let's start with Suspiria.
I think I did like the Suspiria remake more than the original.
Really?
So I haven't seen I haven't seen either of these in a while. Obviously, I saw the original as an adult. I didn't see it like as a kid. And I did really like it. I found it visually quite striking.
Yep.
But I did like the remake quite a bit too. And I remember thinking that this is really good. It's a contender for one of the best remakes out there.
Yeah.
So perhaps I certainly don't disagree with the idea of it being as good as, if not better.
I don't disagree at all.
Yeah.
We did basically like, I don't remember when exactly, but we did basically like a double feature of the two. I had never seen Suspiria before. And so when the new Suspiria came out and everybody was raving about it, I think it still took me a while to get around to it. But finally one day I was like, you know what? Enough is enough.
It's time.
It's time. I woke up one morning and I said, I'm ready.
You do that thing where you lick your finger, hold it up, test the wind. It's a Suspiria day.
It was time to check out Suspiria. So we watched Suspiria, the Dario Argento Suspiria, and then we watched the, Tom York Suspiria. I don't know what you call it. Unfortunately, I don't remember who.
I don't either. I just know that Tilda Swinton is in it.
That's right. Tilda Swinton. Yeah, you can hardly tell.
Yeah. Well, no, you know she plays that old man too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Just making sure.
Without having any nostalgia or, pre-awareness of the original, the Dario Argento Suspiria, it's not as if there was some great hurdle for the new one to leap over.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
I remember thinking that each had their own very distinct merits. Very distinct merits. I loved in the Dario Argento Suspiria, I love the score. I think it's Goblin.
I don't know.
All right.
I have to confess, I really don't know a lot about
Fair
this.
enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But so it's both stories concern a girl who's going to this dance school that is effectively run by witches. And they each just play into different strengths of the story. And the Dario Argento one is lower budget, obviously, and a bit more rudimentary, but really creepy for that.
Yeah.
And then the modern one is it feels like it had a perfectly sufficient budget for what it's trying to pull off. And it does body horror and gross out, but also very emotionally. It's like a story of the falling of the Berlin Wall and stuff. And I think they each had their own strengths where I don't feel like I can even say one is better than the other.
Yeah.
They're both two different movies with two different goals based on the same core idea of a dance school with witches.
Right. They have two like different points of view.
Absolutely. It's almost like the Stephen King, like The Shining versus Stanley Kubrick's The Shining in my head.
That also comes up in Finn's
Is that right?
hot takes. Yep.
Because I understand the need to be like, which one's better, but for me it's always been like neither one's better. They're two different stories
totally
around the same concept, and they each are strong in their own unique way.
Yeah.
So better, worse, to me, I don't even need to rank them. I like them both, and they're both outstanding.
Yeah, both very good. How did you feel? Do you feel like Us is as good as Get Out? And have you rewatched either of those since seeing them in theaters? And feel like Us is more rewarding on rewatch the way that Finn does?
I've seen each of those movies a good couple of times. And weirdly, not to be fence sitter, man, maybe I'll have more like controversial hot take opinions.
That's all right.
As we proceed.
Gotta sit in your truth.
But it's like Jordan Peele made two great movies.
Yeah.
And like, I understand similar to being like which Suspiria is better, which Shining is better. It's like, I get it. Like, did he do a better or worse job than last time? They're two separate movies with two separate kinds of goals.
Yeah.
And they're both outstanding. I will say, I know that a lot of people poo-poo Us for not holding up under the weight of its own like perceived plot holes.
Yeah.
I love it. That movie almost made me cry.
I love Us, and I was obsessed with it when it came out. Like, I loved reading about anything that I could.
That trailer.
Online the trailer was so good.
One of the greatest trailers ever.
I loved reading about like any little symbolism or Easter eggs or like just anything I could find out about behind the scenes or whatever after I watched it. I was very obsessed with Us for like days after it came out, like just reading anything I could that Jordan Peele said about it or whatever. But I do love them both. Yeah,
both movies are full of like symbolism and the intent behind why characters are doing what they're doing, why they're wearing what they're wearing. And I think they're both incredibly rewarding to like try to understand not just what the story is, but why they're constructed the way they're constructed.
Yeah.
And for us, it all seems to amount to people that are like, but in the tunnels under the ground, how long has that been there? And to me, that's like an afterthought thing. It's like, this is actually a relatively, even though it's grand in scope to be like, these things under the ground are going to overtake the world.
Right.
It's like our vantage point is a pretty small story about this family and in particular, this woman. So like,
that's the main deal.
Yeah, I don't get overwhelmed by the global implications of Us.
No, nor do I.
So I just like it. But Get Out, I would say, is pretty much perfect. Like,
I haven't seen either of them since I saw them in theaters.
Oh, I highly recommend. Get Out still kicks ass. It is still freaky deaky.
Yeah.
That scene where what's her name? Where she's going, no. No, and she's crying like,
I don't know the actress's name, but woo.
Dude, that movie kicks ass.
I know. I mean, when they were showing clips of it during Horror Noir, which we watched for an episode kind of recently, I was like, man, what a movie. I haven't rewatched a lot of things
modern
lately,
horror.
Just things in general, because there are just so many things to watch.
I have a hard time rewatching modern stuff. For some reason, it's easier for me to go back and watch something from like
I guess you're right.
the 70s or 80s or 90s.
That's a lie. I have rewatched things. But I haven't rewatched things that I have like watched in the last handful of years, like seen in theaters.
I think that might be a function of us now just firmly being adults today. I don't have nostalgia for these things. I just like them. When I was a kid and I saw something, I've been chasing that feeling of seeing that scary movie, or like a movie I've never seen before that's from the 80s will still make me feel like being back in that time. Movies today are just so goddamn good. I don't feel myself getting obsessed with them as much. But those two movies in particular, Us and Get Out, I have rewatched. And like I said, Get Out, I think, is just like a fun, scary, oh my God horror movie, and it's very inventive. And Us is not necessarily inventive, but it's way more emotional to me. I will say I have not rewatched Nope. Which is surprising. I have not gone back to that one.
I haven't either. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I tend to rewatch things that are pretty simple. Honestly, things
that's
that are just
interesting.
kind of like straightforward and just kind of like easy to watch and just have like a good, easy, chill feel to them. I think that I'm probably I'm just kind of spitballing and thinking. I'm probably less likely to watch something that I really liked that was like a little complex or a thinker.
Interesting.
I
can see
probably
that.
enjoyed it during that time, but like I don't know that I'm gonna like be like, oh, I should watch that again. I
Totally.
kind of, if I'm rewatching something, I probably just want to like catch a feeling again or just chill out.
I totally get that. Comfort food is
Yeah.
good for a rewatch. Not a
Yeah.
great big thinker that might make you cry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead a question actually because it kind of we were just talking about The Shining. So, a hot take Finn has. The Shining is overlong and overwrought.
Oh.
I can understand its profound cultural influence, but the last third is at an 11 for too long to sustain the tension. Also, Shelley Duvall acts her role just as well as Jack Nicholson acts his, and both of them ham it up exactly as much as they should. So, let me think. Do I think it is overlong and overwrought?
I know. That is a good hot take.
Yeah, that is a good hot take.
That's
Yeah.
a good hot take. Because
No one
this
ever really
movie
says
is
that.
revered. You never hear anyone really poo-poo The Shining. Unless they're just
Yeah.
being like, it's not like the book.
Right.
But to be like the movie itself, the actual construction of the movie
Yeah.
itself. Is it too long? Is it boring?
Let me think. I could see it maybe being a little bit too long. I think there are some points. I'm thinking about like when I think that there's a point like when she locks him in the freezer where I'm like, we're only here.
Yeah,
like there's
yeah,
all
yeah.
this stuff still to happen.
He still has
And,
to
like,
escape and come to the
yeah.
bathroom, and here's Johnny, and yeah. The hedge maze run out the window.
Yeah.
Scatman's not here yet.
Yes,
there's still a lot to do.
That's
yeah.
like a marker to me. Like he's in the freezer and Scatman isn't even here
Yeah.
yet for some reason. So I can kind of feel that.
I can totally understand it.
Yeah.
To me though, it's hard for me to watch The Shining like a movie anymore. Watching
I know.
it's like The Shining is just that thing that I've seen 1,000 times.
Totally.
I'm very accepting of it just the way it is. But I get it. You don't
Yeah.
need to see how many times do you need to see Danny riding his big wheel.
Yeah.
Right? Like I
Yeah.
can totally see why you might be like, let's trim this down.
Enough already.
Especially like in what was it, 1980, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But so because it's 80, it's really got a 70s like sensibility.
Yeah.
Like it certainly doesn't move at a modern pace. Go watch Ready Player One to see how people would like to see The Shining today.
Think about him on a Thursday.
Oh my God, that Thursday scene.
Oh my God.
Well, that's the weird
It's
thing.
amazing. You know how they'll show you like Monday and it's them like doing stuff or whatever. And then they do Thursday and it's just Jack staring out a window looking really weird. Yeah, down. He's
And then it's just Friday.
Yeah.
Like that's all he did?
that was Thursday?
What are you doing on Thursday?
And like they
24
they
hours?
hold on that for a while.
They sure do.
That probably wouldn't happen in a lot of more modern movies.
Kubrick face.
Yeah.
I get it. I think it's like, how do you spend your time? Right? Like one of the big complaints about The Shining, actually, this is a complaint people usually have about The Shining, and it's one that I kind of agree with. Jack Nicholson is just fully crazy.
Yeah.
From like the first second that we meet him.
Absolutely. He is terrifying.
He's
That's
an
your
asshole
husband.
to his family.
That's a scary husband and dad.
Like the thing about Jack Nicholson, about Jack Torrance in the book is that every time I've read the book, and I've probably read it 3 times, not a ton, but it's a long book.
Yes.
You spend a lot of time with Jack Torrance and in his head and about his weaknesses and his ambition to be better.
Yeah.
When you read The Shining, at least I do, at some part in my head, I'm like, ooh, it feels like he could have been fine. It feels like
I find the book sad.
it's sad. He's like a guy up against his own foibles and trauma. And like you're rooting for him. In The Shining, the movie, when he's like, you hear that, Wendy? He saw it on the TV.
Yes.
And he's like just being a son of a bitch.
Yeah, he's such an asshole.
You're like, this
He's
guy,
so scary.
of course this guy's going to kill his family.
Yeah.
So like for the movie to spend its time on, here's Danny in his big wheel. We spend more time on that rather than characterizing Jack or a gradual progression of him going crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
It feels like he gets to Thursday face
Pretty fast.
pretty easily.
Yeah.
Like if the movie maybe spent its time on character progression rather than
Like
long,
imagery.
slow, lingering shot, maybe it wouldn't feel
Yeah.
It's just like it's spending its time on different things.
Yeah, there are a lot of shots, which I mean is one of the great things about it. But yeah, you can't argue against the fact that there are a lot of shots that are just like boom of looking at like different hallways.
Totally. Absolutely.
I totally get that.
Totally get it.
And I definitely agree that Shelley Duvall is just as great as Jack Nicholson in this.
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
As we record this, because we are banking shows for Will's parental leave, so we're in the past. She just passed away a few days ago.
Yeah.
And she was amazing.
Yeah, I have to say, I had not seen her in a million things. I know her mostly from The Shining.
Yeah, same. And Shelley Duvall's fairy tale theater.
Yeah, I do remember. I have like vague
Loved.
memories of watching that as a kid. I know
Loved
mostly.
and also freaked out by.
Of course.
It was disturbing.
Oh yeah.
Made me feel a little sick, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am familiar with the commonly held belief that working on The Shining is what sort of like broke her as a person, which is more fairy tale than anything else. Like, yeah, Kubrick was, by all accounts, like an asshole and made her do like hundreds of takes, and it was physically, mentally draining.
Yeah.
But later on, she would say that like, no, I this is not the cause of any of my suffering.
Right.
This movie. And yeah, people who complain about Wendy or something, like, again, about like Jordan Peele's movies, like, she's as good as Jack Nicholson because they're both in this movie crushing their roles.
Yeah.
She's not playing his character.
Right.
He's not playing her character. They're both excelling at doing those roles. So hard agree.
She's great
Yes.
in it. I mean, when people complain about her, I think that it's partially in comparison to Jack Nicholson because he's so big in it.
He's commanding and scary.
And he is incredible and scary that, and she's not as commanding, but she shouldn't be.
No,
like
she's supposed to be scared.
Yes, exactly. So in comparison, people are like, oh, she doesn't hold up the same way he does or something.
Well,
But
it's also
that's a good thing. That's her
Yes.
acting it well.
She's doing the role properly. It's like that same thing that people complain about Heather Donahue, where they're like, she's annoying. And
She's supposed to be annoying.
like, that's her character. Like,
Yeah.
you can't hold the performer accountable for doing the job right.
Right.
Like, it's very strange
Like,
to
not
me.
everybody is supposed to be likable or super strong and make all the moves that you think that they should
Right.
make or whatever. Like,
Why is Heather screaming all the time?
Right.
She's scared and she's in the woods. Why is Wendy
why is she like flailing when she runs? I don't know. She's freaked out.
She's freaked out.
That's the way she runs.
And she's not worried about how she
thinking about it.
looks.
Yeah, she's just totally in fear, and she's also exhausted.
Yes.
And she's barely holding herself up, and that's how she's doing it.
Yes, it's dismissive, perhaps misogynistic.
I always say it because it is most of the time. It's misogynistic.
Right.
And yeah, it's stupid. So hard agree, Finn.
Hard agree, Finn.
Okay. Back to the previous question. My partner Eliza, or actually these are pretty much hot takes. Question/hot takes. My partner Eliza finds Scream 3 the scariest of the franchise.
Whoa.
Because it was produced by Miramax and the text is not subtle about the predatory nature of the film industry.
Right.
So yeah, I can certainly get that in like a meta way.
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's like it's the scariest because it's talking about like the real life things that happen in the film industry.
Casting couch.
Yeah.
Hidden room.
Right. If you're like really thinking about it and being like, you know, there aren't usually often masked killers who are chasing people with knives in the way they are in Scream, but there are casting couches, hidden back rooms, all these
Predatory
sorts of
producers.
like dealings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think. It is so, that movie, more than really any of the others, is the weirdest to look back in retrospect. Where it's like, it's very overtly about Hollywood. There is a producer in the movie who assaulted Sydney's mom.
What's this man's name?
John Milton.
Yeah.
Like we go to his office and they talk about how he's like a creep, and one of the stars of Stab 3 within Scream 3 is like, I should not have fucked that pig Milton to get a leading role, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And this is all produced by Harvey Weinstein.
Totally. So I could imagine there being like, probably not, but I'm just saying, you know how there'll be like academic papers or whatever, and they're like a read of, well, what I'm saying is like a read of Scream 3 through the lens of the casting couch or whatever, where they're like, you could look at this and be focusing more on that aspect of this movie and kind of seeing the violence as secondary and really focusing on that because there's a lot of it, and definitely be freaked out by it.
Oh, 100%. Well, also like take it to its like really extrapolate the plot further, Billy and Stu, were they inspired by horror movies? That was like a big debate and has been a debate for a long time, especially around like scary movies and video games, right? Does violent media make young people violent?
Yeah.
And then by the time we get to Scream 3, it's more directly the evil abuse going on behind the scenes in Hollywood is what broke a person so much so that she then inspired people to kill.
Right.
So it's like the ultimate evil per Scream 3 is Hollywood's practices. Like that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like all of this is because of a John Milton.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you strip away Courtney Cox's bangs,
Yeah, if you can.
if you can manage to,
Right.
and all the things that make Scream 3 ridiculous, but great.
Yes.
When you think about it.
Yes. I've thought about it many times how bizarre it is that I rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I stand by it. I think that Scream 3 is dopey, but it was also all that era around like Columbine and the what felt like the right thing to do was to tone down the violence and lean into the funny stuff that people always said Scream was funny.
I've come around to like it way more than I used to.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's like such a product of its time. But I also think that like, it had this whole weird other focus beyond just being a whodunit slasher into like reflecting the environment in which these movies got made at all.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Totally. And that Carrie Fisher is in it, kind of remarking on those things. And that's something that she definitely experienced in life and talked about.
Yep.
Like, it is weird that is like a vein running through this movie.
And her character says, I missed out on playing Princess Leia, so who gets it? The one who sleeps with George Lucas. There are almost like how in Scream 1 and 2, like in Scream, everything is like through like slasher or whatever. In Scream 2, everything is all about mothers.
Yeah.
Where it's like even the clip they show of Stab is Billy talking about his mother. And like all that, like Scream 3 weirdly is all of this like hidden sibling, obviously, but also like all these characters for some reason have this connection to casting couch notion.
Yeah.
It's like it very much is just like a through line. It's a theme in the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's real crazy.
And it is disturbing.
Yeah. Oh,
when
yeah.
you think about it. So I get Eliza on that
Totally
one.
get it.
Okay. Another thought. The best body horror is dependent on sound. To explain, visuals are confined to a screen. No matter how large the screen, the goal is to make you forget there's an edge so you can feel immersed in the film world. Sound is spatial and, when well designed and mixed, can feel like it's in the room or even in your own body, a surefire shortcut to an empathetic response. When good sound design prioritizes bodily sounds, body horror takes on a visceral quality it cannot achieve with visuals alone. The rubbery sound of tendons and cartilage in Alien makes the audience feel the facehugger and chestburster scenes, while the mechanical organic fusion of the xenomorph goes from threatening alien to the embodiment of body horror, thanks to its combination of hard, machine-like body sounds with animal vocalizations and viscous dripping. Julia Ducournau's films, I don't know who that is, so I apologize for the pronunciation, are the best example, I think. Raw is extremely upsetting and amplified by its sound design, while Titan may be the best / most nauseating sound design I've ever heard. Scratching, crunching, piercing, it's like surround sound body horror.
Wow. Yeah. Well, first of all, that was beautifully written.
I know. Excuse me, Finn. That's Finn's last. So what a beautiful swan song.
Good golly.
I know.
There's a concept in media that is like, I'm going to get the quote wrong, but it's like audio is 90% of film.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it this way, if you watch a movie and it looks bad but sounds good, you can deal with that better than if you watch a movie that looks good and sounds like shit.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Sound gets under your skin more.
Yeah.
It's more intrusive and annoying. And I think that might be part of this notion because
I think it makes sense.
All the squelching,
yes.
I think that's interesting.
Definitely.
I think I can agree with that.
I think I can too. Yeah, because you can. Also, it's easy to sort of like close your eyes to that sort of stuff, but it's harder to block out the sound. I don't just mean physically, but it's just like, as Finn said, like good sound, it's kind of like, it feels like it's all around you and it really like gets into you and it's like, oh God.
Well, especially because like you can relate to body horror. Specifically body horror is like an interesting way to like view this because like I can't relate to go back to Suspiria. I can't relate to like my arms being snapped backwards.
Yeah.
But I can relate to like some sort of a weird squelching liquid notion.
Right.
Like one of them is easier to relate to and be grossed out by, and you can't necessarily feel the other, but you can empathize.
Yeah.
And then also think about like how sometimes like if something gnarly happens, especially in movies where it's like someone's gonna snap someone's arm.
Yeah.
And they start to snap, but then the camera cuts and all you hear is the sound. It's because you're not visually always seeing it, but in the audio, it's being sold to you so directly.
Yes.
That's gotta be it, right? Like the audio is more important than the visual in a sense because it's the one that they can't cut away from.
Right.
You know, it's the one that's not censored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true.
Interesting.
So have you reacted when I said the movie Raw?
Yeah.
What is that?
I'm aware of Raw. I think I've never seen Raw and I've never seen Titan, but I think that Raw, and I can confirm, but I think that Raw is that movie where somebody who was vegan is now compelled to eat raw meat.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that.
Let me see. Raw movie. Yeah, 2016. Stringent vegetarian Justine encounters a decadent, merciless, and dangerously seductive world during her first week at veterinary school. Desperate to fit in, she strays from her principles and eats raw meat for the first time. The young woman soon experiences terrible and unexpected consequences as her true self begins to emerge.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I can imagine some freaky squelchy sounds coming out of that.
I don't need the squelch.
Yeah. No, I'm not a big fan of the squelch. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have kind of like a funny shorty question.
Great.
That I was like, yeah, this is true. This is a thing. I don't really know what to say. This is from Rebecca. They say, I have a random question for the Q&A episode coming up. I've noticed a couple of times that Kristen seems to have an aversion to the word supper. And I was wondering, is there a story behind that?
Huh. Is there?
No, not really. I can imagine myself when somebody be like, oh, like if you're reading something that somebody said and it's like, oh, come over supper. I go, supper.
Yes. I think there are some words just in general.
It's just like
we happen to not, and this could be a regional thing too, right? Like our show goes out to literally the globe. So there's no, if it's common language in one place but not here, for us it just sounds unusual.
It's like a little highfalutin.
Supper?
Yeah.
Sounds to me like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like we're literally talking about specifically the word supper, because I can think of at least one other example of a word that is just weird to us. But like supper, yeah, it sounds like something that people like
fancy people say, like John Cleese in The Great Muppet Caper, when
he's having
Kermit
supper
and Miss Piggy are like scaling the wall and stuff. He's having supper. I think he remarks on having supper.
See, that's interesting because I don't go to highfalutin high life. I go to people who are wearing, pants that were made by like the guy down the street, and they're wearing like brown moccasins.
That sounds
in like
good to
olden
me.
days. They sit down for supper.
Well, them too, honestly.
Right?
Yeah. I think it's like an old-timey word that like fancy people use.
Yeah.
And so it's like, supper, excuse me?
Supper?
Yeah.
Why are you using supper when dinner's sitting right there?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's really the thing.
That's really what it amounts to. There was a game that our dad liked to play where, like, let's imagine like we're sitting at a diner and we're waiting for our order or something like that.
Yeah.
He would go, okay, let's play Ghost.
Oh yeah.
And Ghost was a game, and maybe everyone knows this game, I don't know. But we each say a letter. Let's just play a round of Ghost real quick. We'll exemplify it, okay?
I've done this in forever.
You start with a letter. And what you're trying to do is not be the one to finish spelling a word, all right? Can't be a proper noun, can't be a 3-letter word. It has to be 4 or more for it to be really admissible.
Yeah.
Let's just see what happens.
P.
R.
O.
U. And I think I just won.
Yeah, you did. Whatever. D. So then I lost. So that's how you play Ghost. Yeah.
So you're trying not to be the one to finish the word. And we were playing, and I don't think Mom played with us often. I don't know why. She just...
This is such a good one. It's a perfect example of a word that we were like, what?
I know. Mom, we were playing and we got to the point where it was P-O-R and then Mom went and she goes, R. And now it was one of our turn. We're like, P-O-R-R. Yeah. What the hell is this? And maybe some of you, maybe it already sprang to some of your minds. I don't know. But Kristen and I could not figure it out. And so finally...
We were stumped.
We just went, all right, what is it? And she goes, porridge.
Yeah, like, no duh.
Like, obviously, I'm spelling porridge. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not in Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I don't think about the word porridge ever.
We loved it.
We dined out on Mom spelling porridge for years. It's like that. It struck me as a word similar to you saying like, "What's up with supper?" It's just like, who's using the word porridge when oatmeal's sitting around?
Totally.
Now I know her challenge was to try to stump us with a word. So
of course, but it's just so funny that was even.
Bravo.
It was there.
I don't have porridge in mind.
Not at the
porridge
ready.
is not in my head.
Yeah.
We don't use porridge. Porridge is not admissible. I'm sorry to porridge.
No, sorry to this porridge.
But so it's just sometimes there's just a word, a word that feels weird.
Yeah.
And I guess supper has been yours. I don't know.
I that really is what it comes down to.
Sitting down to supper.
Yeah.
Why are you calling me? I'm sitting down to supper.
I just sat down to supper. Let me call you back.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Least of which, if you're sitting down to supper, you probably don't have a phone.
Do you get supper at a restaurant or is that a home?
No.
You get supper at home. Right? Like home.
I'm going out for supper. No.
No.
You're sitting down to supper at home.
You want to go to a restaurant and get some supper?
No. No, I don't.
No. Supper is you're at home.
Yeah, definitely.
You're having a casserole.
Yeah, microwave supper?
That's
is
your
that
supper.
A thing?
I don't think so. Microwave supper.
A TV supper?
Now it sounded extra weird. We've said it so many times.
I know. It's losing all meaning.
Could you microwave me some supper? Wheel of Fortune's coming on.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well, that a huge important question handled.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for asking.
So we're going to answer some more of your questions. God, literally anything, everybody. Please send in questions. I love doing this.
I love them.
I know.
You're all geniuses, honestly.
It's delightful. We'll get more questions kicking after we just take a little break to let you know about our Patreon. Patreon.com/GTTUpod. It's something of our, it's one of our lifebloods. Patreon is a wonderful, really, platform for us where we can release a bunch of bonus material, a bunch of extra shows. We have a whole secret podcast that only happens on our Patreon called the Netherworld Dispatch. We've got a Discord where you can join and speak to other folks who enjoy the show. It's such a fun place for us to do things for people who have been supporting the show sometimes for years.
Yes, it's incredible to me.
There are a number of different tiers where you can sign up. We've got a free tier. We've got the zombie tier, that's $1 a month. The ghost tier for $4 a month, and you get an episode of the Netherworld Dispatch every month.
Yep, and you get access to our regular stream ad-free.
That's right.
Just regular Guides to the Unknown, but no ads.
That's right, which is wonderful. Our Banshee tier, that's 2 episodes of the Netherworld Dispatch plus the ad-free shows. And then way up on our Demon tier, that's $13 a month, gets you 4 episodes of the Netherworld Dispatch. That's every single Monday, plus the ad-free shows, plus the Discord access. It's so much fun to do. I love doing the Netherworld Dispatch. We often look at clips of things, a lot of stuff that we can't do on the main feed. So it really is it genuinely is a fairly secretive, fairly exclusive club, so to speak.
Clubhouse.
And thank you so much to everyone who supports us. But if you're in the position, please consider going to check out patreon.com/GTTUpod. It is hugely, hugely helpful. Quite frankly, we depend on it.
Yes. Thank you so much.
So thank you. And also, if you would not mind, consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or leaving us some stars on Spotify, either of which is greatly appreciated. Increases our sort of legitimacy to the world because, as you know, we are an incredibly illegitimate organization.
Of course. So we need to pull the wool over their eyes somehow, and you can help us.
Help us
by
trick
giving us
them.
good reviews.
Won't you help us fool everybody?
Come on.
And thank you again to everybody who has left reviews and stuff. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
It really does. Thank you so much. All right. So we will be back with some more questions, hot takes to discuss, all kinds of stuff from you cool people. Very cool things.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, very unique.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, people are just very neat.
Awesome.
Okay. After this commercial break.
Okay. Hit me.
Okay. Here we go. So this one is from Matthew. Howdy. So my horror hot take is this. For as pompous and arrogant as he was, and how much film buffs like to put him on a pedestal, Stanley Kubrick can't hold a candle to George Romero or John Carpenter because Kubrick never created a new movie genre.
Oh.
Interesting, right?
Wow.
Yeah, like he created a lot of cool movies, but in existing genres. However, the other two broke doors wide open. I think that's a very interesting hot take.
That's a very interesting perspective. Never created a genre.
Right.
So George Romero invented the modern concept of zombies, which is still really kind of neat.
That is humongous.
That type of horror creature did not exist before 1960.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And John Carpenter, what did he create?
I was about to say, revoke my card. I don't know what he created.
I'm not certain that he did create anything. So this is the only way that I'm not trying to poke holes, but George Romero I get because he invented a monster.
George Romero for our understanding of this.
Romero v. Kubrick?
I guess so, yeah.
I think Kubrick, you could argue, is the elevated horror of his day.
Yeah.
He's like the prestige horror guy. And George Romero was far more like workman-like.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting. Like, did Kubrick really invent? I mean, or did he just speak like a cinematic language very handily?
I mean, in a way, okay. So I also, I talk about movies all the time and everything. I would never consider myself a film buff. Would Kubrick's cinematic language, but also language, his visual language, the way he made shots, all that kind of stuff, his like cuckoo attention to detail and everything.
Yeah.
Is there any way that could be considered almost inventing something in itself?
Like he upped the game or something?
Yeah, is that kind of competitive in a way with what George Romero did?
I think that's a really good point. I'd have to know more.
I think the answer to that is no.
I know. I'd have to know more about his class of filmmakers, something like that, like his graduating class.
But just for
which I don't.
discussion's sake.
He
did have a very specific way
yes.
of filmmaking.
Right.
And obviously George Romero created something very specific. So how much does that count?
I know. Yeah, it's true. But George Romero also created like a subgenre of horror. He didn't necessarily create a genre. He created a movie monster.
That is still a big deal.
Oh, I still think it's...
No, I know. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. Kubrick is very much like the prestige guy, and George Romero in this whole scenario is more like... Yeah, like horror
lower
movies.
Budgets and making scary pictures.
I mean, I do think
even thoughtfully, but
he should be just as respected, especially for his contribution to film.
Yes, I think that. Yeah, how do you judge the efficacy of one filmmaker against the other? Like both are legendary.
I know.
I mean, Kubrick is probably more mainstream beloved than George Romero.
Right. So which is why this is a worthwhile hot take.
I know. I totally agree. I think it's
elevating Romero and John Carpenter for reasons that we don't understand.
Quite frankly, I applaud this hot take.
As do I.
I think that this is something that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make my own interpretation of it. But I think the hot take itself is nice and spicy.
I get it.
I get it entirely. What did Kubrick really invent?
Right. By the way, it's Kubrick.
Kubrick?
I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, it's Kubrick.
I know. I probably mispronounce like every other word I say.
Same.
But yeah, and then John Carpenter, I think, and I'm putting words in Matthew's mouth, but maybe Halloween, because that was like one of the first slashers.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right.
But that was also...
I think you're totally right. That did like usher in like a new brand of slasher. It's definitely what he's getting at.
But
I assume.
Didn't Black Christmas do that, a couple years before?
It was so much more popular.
And didn't Texas Chainsaw do it like a handful of years before that?
I think that they're in different classes.
You think so?
I do. Not necessarily Black Christmas, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre to me, not just because I don't really like it, is like a different... I don't really think of it as a slasher, really. I know it technically is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It feels different to me somehow. I guess there's just not the same kind of like... quiet stalking element or something.
Yeah, true. I mean,
I guess
it
there's
certainly
just a few
is.
things about it. Like, it's the claustrophobia of it too is so particular, and other slashers don't really feel that way. Like, that's not something. It's something that makes it stand out from all of the other slashers. That sense of like enclosure. So I think that's why I don't really think of it as a slasher, even though that's not correct technically.
I think Halloween is like the prototype to be copied.
Yeah.
But I think it was doing something similar to, it's just another scary day. Black Christmas is someone stalking these sorority girls on a holiday. Halloween is someone stalking these high school girls on a holiday. You know what I mean?
No,
so like,
totally.
I don't know if it invented the genre, but I think that Halloween is
But it did create
arguably
the big boom.
like perfect.
Yes.
And
I love
2 years later, Friday the 13th comes out, which once people are copycatting, then it exalts the original.
Yeah.
You know? And so I just referred to Halloween as the original. So maybe point is made.
Yeah.
Maybe
I think so. I do kind of think it's like the springboard for all of these other things.
yeah, fair
Halloween.
enough. All right, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I
So,
still think
yeah,
it's a wonderful hot take. Yeah, did
I do think they should kind of be on similar pedestals.
Yeah, for the mainstream or something.
Yeah.
Well, people always will poo-poo horror.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Even though he made a horror classic, I guess he made other things that were not.
He made tons of things that were not horror.
Yeah. But most things are a little bit freaky, right? Mm-hmm. So, but still. I guess there's still like a fine line between freaky and
Most people don't
straight-up
call
horror
something
movies.
a horror movie unless it's something that they look down on.
Yeah.
Then they call it a thriller, or they call it psychological, or they call it elevated horror. They find the justification of this. I don't remember who it was. Somebody said, or maybe it was Micah Monroe off of Long Legs, was like, when I was getting into the horror space, everything was just moving out of girls running and covered in blood.
It was Micah Monroe.
She was like, now they were finally strong roles for women.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute. That's not exactly true. Like, I know that there's this popular belief that the horror genre is pure exploitation and trash.
Yeah.
But by and large, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And there have always been strong roles in horror movies, and there have been both.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think you can make the case that when Micah Monroe showed up, it had been changing, and finally there were roles for women.
No, I don't think that's true either.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome hot take.
Great hot
Matthew.
take. Great hot take.
I love that. Okay, this one is from Melissa, kind of just a thought, and honestly, me selfishly wanting to say something to our listeners.
Oh.
Would you ever consider doing a joint episode with Sinisterhood? There's a lot of spooky overlap, and I think that you both and Heather and Christy would have a good energy together. And then they sent us their website. Yeah, we would totally do a crossover like that. I've actually reached out to Sinisterhood before. And if you would like to see us do something like that with a podcast that you would like, it would be super helpful if you let them know. Like, tag them in something with both of us, email them, because, things get lost in the sauce, emails get lost, things like that. But usually podcasters will be, us included, like a little bit more responsive when they know that like listeners want to see this thing.
Totally.
So yeah, I love that idea. And yeah, if there's anything that you guys would be interested in seeing us do, or if there's anybody that you'd like to see us do a team up with, we would love it if you would tag us and them in something on social media so that they know that the people want it.
Admittedly, I just don't know a lot of other podcasters, so I don't have that bridge to them already. Or like, I can't speak for the way that other teams might operate, but I know that Guide to the Unknown, we like very much sort of like work in our corner of the internet, like on Planet Guide to the Unknown.
Yeah.
And I don't always have like a through line to the other planets.
Okay. Let's see. All right. And then Melissa has some more stuff. A hypothetical. What if anxiety is ghosts, or ghosts are anxiety? Since I was a little kid, I've always really loved ghosty, scary stories, but would get way too scared after I'd consume them. And then I'd get creepy, ghosty feelings all the time, and basically everything was haunted and horrifying. So, for 25 years, I'd avoid anything ghost story related, completely scary story abstinence. Complete scary story abstinence. But at some point, a year and a half or 2 years ago, I decided to try scary ghosty stories again, and this time I wasn't scared out of my mind. I consumed some more ghosty stories, and while I got a good neck hair raising feeling, there were no lingering ghosts. This was around the same time that I had started taking medication for anxiety, so now I wonder whether most of my past ghosts were made of anxiety. I feel like I've heard similar stories from other folks who started treating their anxiety. So, is anxiety ghosts / are ghosts anxiety?
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I know.
I think I understand on the level of like, for me, it's like anxiety increases the likelihood that I'm going to feel negative all the time. You know?
Yes.
And it doesn't, for me, make me more frightened, but I've certainly had my issues with anxiety and depression and things like that. I do take medication for it. That feels, you know what that feels like? That feels like old world sort of like,
Oh, yeah. Like, yes, you're right. Like finding an explanation for something, like thinking that some sort of like physical illness is a demon.
Yes, is a demon. Right. Yeah. That's interesting. But I also understand it on the level of like, ghosts as a metaphor. I know that this is seems to be more literally about ghosts themselves, but ghosts as a metaphor for like when you feel bad, it's a doorway to feeling worse if you don't address the root cause or something like that. That's how I sort of, and I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, totally.
Literal ghost, that feels like ghost stories where it's like there's I don't know, like this house, there's something feels wrong about this house. This room is cold. Or when Zach Bagans is like,
like when you're affected.
Yeah, I'm feeling rage. I feel a lot of rage right now.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It also reminds me of the concept of poltergeists, like how they usually seem to be a thing around, teenagers or people who are having like extreme emotions around them, and they can kind of manifest in physical things sort of moving, and then those being interpreted as a ghost moving those things. Or could it be that those feelings do kind of manifest as some sort, like it's almost like creating a ghost. It's not just that it's creating kinetic energy, and that energy is just straight up tipping something over. Does that energy and anxiety, is that a recipe for an entity? Creates
a little tulpa.
Yeah, creates like a little ghosty thing.
Little energy monster.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I think it's an interesting concept. My personal gut is that a lot of this stuff is brain chemistry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really cool idea. Okay, let's move on to some stuff from Abby.
Please.
All right, here's a hot take. Campy horror is to horror movies what progressive metal is to heavy metal music. In progressive metal, the substance is in the complicated songs. The more flourishy and complex the music, the more progressive it is. The substance in campy horror movies comes from the creative kills and practical special effects.
Oh, I think I get it. So it's like style over substance kind of notion?
I think so. I think that's true. I don't know a lot about progressive heavy metal music, but I think that Abby explained it pretty well.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting notion.
Yeah.
Well, it's like subgenres of subgenres of subgenres.
Right.
Right? Like
campy
horror as a style. You want to see the camp more than you care about like
the juice is really the campiness as opposed to like the story and stuff like that.
Like if I'm going to watch Jason X, it's not because I think I'm going to watch a quality film.
Yeah, it's because you're excited that he's in space.
Yes.
Right. And as with progressive metal is that you know that it's going to be like rather than just like the song as a whole.
Yes. Okay. I totally get that. Yeah. I think, and that's where just like everything has its audience, man.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Just chase the thing that you want to make and hopefully people will find it and get what you're going for and not judge it by some rubric that you're not even creating it to fit.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
I'm trying to make doodly doodly doodly.
Right.
I'm not trying to make, I don't know, what's the greatest song ever written?
Mary Had a Little Lamb.
I was crying when I met you.
Oh, yeah. Probably that.
Some Aerosmith. I don't know why that was my go-to.
Yeah, probably Crying by Aerosmith.
Probably.
Okay, here's another one, which is fun. Okay. If you change the POV in action movies to the henchman, you basically have a slasher movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. I've thought about this before. This is
Yeah.
a fun one. So like one of the greatest...
That is true.
One of the greatest action movies of all time, Die Hard. But if you don't see John McClane...
Right.
And you're just like henchmen who heard a noise, it's like Alien.
Yeah.
You know? Alien... The alien is John McClane. And it's going through like vents and stuff.
I've only seen Alien once.
I've gotten a lot of requests for us to cover Alien.
I know.
My excuse is always that you don't want to.
I don't want to, but we can someday.
Oh, you got to see Alien Resurrection. There's something in that movie, many somethings, that you're gonna hate it.
Why? What is it?
You're gonna hate it.
Tell me what it is.
No.
Why not?
No, I'm not gonna tell you what it is. Brad Dourif's in it. He's gross. The heroes are like a squadron of weirdo pirate guys, and they're gross.
I don't want to watch this.
The ultimate monster is called like Junior or the Newborn or something, and it's gross.
It honestly just sounds boring to me more than anything. Like Nightmare on Elm Street and everything, I'm like, oh, it's gross, but it's not boring. This just sounds boring. It's just like not my thing.
I'm gonna make you someday you will see.
I'm taking it back that I said someday I will, because as you're explaining that, I was already like fading. Like I just don't care about that kind of thing.
I'm pulling up a picture of the newborn.
All right.
You're gonna react. This is gonna be a live reaction of Kristen to the newborn.
It just sounds like, I don't know, like sci-fi action kind of stuff is just not really my fave, and that's kind of what it sounds like.
Here.
It just, I don't know. Dude, that was really close to my face. What is that? Why is he so crotch forward? The picture that Will has is like, he's like fully leaning back, just crotch in the front. What's wrong with him? He's a newborn?
Yeah.
Why is he huge?
That's Sigourney Weaver's.
Who'd he come out of?
Sigourney Weaver's child.
He came out of Sigourney Weaver?
Actually, unclear. I'm not really sure. It's disgusting.
He came out that... No, he couldn't have.
Absolutely disgusting.
How big wasn't he when he came out?
Believe it or not, I don't remember.
Because he's like as tall as the ceiling. I think the picture that Will gave me. It was so to describe for listeners who don't know what the newborn is. I don't know. He was like a sinewy skeleton with his tummy on the outside,
He's
like his stomach sack, and then just leaning his junk forward. But there's no junk.
He's like 75% xenomorph.
That's the newborn.
25% human.
I don't want to watch this.
No. This is horrible.
It also just looks ugly to look at.
Correct.
What was that? Star Wars.
This entire
Star Wars
movie.
and Dune that I'm not very interested in watching because it's just brown. Seems like the same in Alien.
That's how I feel about Batman Begins. I'm like, I don't need to see that anymore. It's just like looking at the color taupe. Taupe for 90 minutes or whatever, 2 hours.
Yeah. I can see that.
Someday I'm gonna make you look at that. Brad Dourif has a little ponytail. Disgusting.
I like that. I like Brad Dourif. You know what? I watched Urban Legend a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he's fun.
And he's great. I forgot that he was in it.
Someone in the back. He talks like that old man from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Take the pen. Come on, take the pen. What, you think I haven't been in a Cadillac before?
I've been in thousands of Cadillacs before.
There's someone in the back seat.
I forgot he was in it. It was great.
Yeah, no, it's a big surprise.
That's a great movie.
Oh, well, yeah, that movie is dynamite. Hell yeah.
Okay. So yeah, totally. If you change the point of view to henchmen, it totally seems like
oh yeah, I forgot what we were talking about.
In general.
Because imagine the henchmen, and they're like, I don't know, shoot the glass.
Yeah,
and then they're like creeping around, and then someone just gets them.
Right.
And it's John McClane. It's Bruce Willis without shoes on.
Right.
100% agreed.
What are action movies I like? I like Die Hard.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I like that movie I recently watched, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see it.
I loved it. I haven't seen any other Beverly Hills Cop movies, and I will.
I forget, did he put a banana in a tailpipe, or what was the deal?
No. Does he do that in another movie or something?
Yeah, we covered it somewhere. Oh. From that perspective, would he be a slasher?
Would he? He and his friends do Annihilate.
Does he hide in the shadows at all?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. That's all it takes.
Yeah, no, he does. Does he as much? Certainly Judge Reinhold does. And another guy who I don't know, his like former boss for an older movie. But yeah, no, it would work as a slasher.
Yeah.
Very gunny slasher, but
sure,
still.
That's fine.
Okay, so Abby has a handful of other questions and hypotheticals, all good, but we're going to save some of them for a future episode.
Okay.
And I want to ask you A final one that I am interested in. Okay. Imagine Zoe is psychic.
Oh, God.
What would it take for you to believe that she can really see ghosts and isn't just being a creepy kid?
Ooh.
I know. That's tough.
Ooh.
You know I would believe her instantly.
You would.
I know.
That would be hard, though, because you'd be talking to me about it when she's not around, and I'd be like,
I know.
Don't enable
No,
this.
I would never.
Yeah.
I would never do that.
I don't know if we ever said it on a main show. Certainly on the Netherworld Dispatch, we went to a convention, the Warrens Paracon or whatever, where somebody asked a question during a Q&A. They were like, my son is seeing ghosts or is psychic or something to that effect.
Oh, God. This is awful.
And we don't know whether or not we should be encouraging his ability, or like looking into other reasons why he might be saying these things. And whoever it was on stage, I can't pretend I know all these people.
I don't remember.
The person on stage went, well, first things first, your kid is psychic. Your kid is seeing ghosts.
Right.
And the next part is blah, 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 blah. But once the guy on stage with no oversight, no like awareness of this family until this moment.
Who knows what that sentence sent those parents into?
Yeah. It's potentially damaging, right?
Yeah.
So I would, and I'm sorry to take this in such a serious direction. Maybe if you have anything silly, we can do it after this. Just
Sure.
Because I think my real answer is that it would take me something tremendous to ever believe that psychic ability occurs anywhere in anyone.
Yeah.
And so if my kid was saying that she was having visions of something occurring, even if that thing came to pass, where like if it was like, you're going to get jam on your tie, dada, and then I get jam on my tie as I head out the day with my briefcase for my business meetings.
I was about to say, the most surprising part of that anecdote is that you're wearing a tie.
Is that I have a normal job. is that like I would be like, well, coincidence. You know, anything I would say it would have to be so astronomically crazy psychic.
Yeah.
That it's irrefutable.
Right.
Irrefutable to any sane mind. You'd have to just be like, she is psychic, because otherwise, I would be very gently trying to understand what she is experiencing and go to like professionals, right? So that is why I think the answer is maybe a little more somber than one might expect.
But that's good.
But that would be my thing, rather than just go, she's psychic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And honestly, while I joked and said I believe her instantly, for me to really believe, it's the exact same thing. I would never be like, you know.
This might be an issue with me, just like losing the ability to have fun and yes and. But like, I don't know, something about like just like imagining Zoe in any scenario, like it pings like a very like measured, serious part of my brain. I can't even like play along. I don't know.
No, there's no need to. I don't think it was a play along question. I think she was actually asking.
I know.
Okay, so yeah, here's a fun one to end on. Well, it's not going to sound fun at first. It's the apocalypse, and something is hunting you. It's not other survivors. What do you hope it is, and what do you pray it's not?
Oh, wow. Okay, this is interesting.
Okay, what would it be good to be hunting me? What do I have a chance against?
Did it cause the apocalypse, or it's just another thing?
I think it's just another thing.
But what's the point of it being the apocalypse? I think it's like this thing, or, you know, its species is part of what caused the apocalypse.
Well, I think the point of it being the apocalypse is like...
no resources.
Yeah, exactly. No resources. You're out there on your own.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Boy. And also, I guess it would be something that exists.
You think so?
Maybe not. Yeah, I guess it doesn't have to be.
Can't be like those things from A Quiet Place.
Oh, God.
The Death Angels,
Honestly,
I believe they're called.
Anything hunting me, I have no chance. I have absolutely no chance.
You don't think you can get away from any kind of hunter?
Honestly, well, I'm thinking any kind of hunter.
Thank God you were born in the 1980s. Can you imagine if we were born in an era where we did have to on some level fend for ourselves? Yeah,
no, I would die instantly. I'm trying to think. What do you have anything?
For some reason, I keep thinking about It Follows. That keeps springing to mind, because it's just like, maybe it's the persistence thing.
Yeah,
that seems to like never stop. So you just got to keep moving.
I mean,
I guess I hope it's not It Follows, because that really seems to never, ever, ever stop, no matter what.
if I have access to hide for a while,
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of scenarios where I watch something, I'm like, I would just hide for a long time till daylight and then just like hope that somebody is out there and I can just like sneak out or whatever and like find other people.
You hope it's a human. I think that's...
No, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but hope that like it's daylight and maybe some other people are now milling about or something.
Oh,
There's
see.
at least cover of darkness. There's less chance of me surviving if I try to like inch my way out and try to like, I don't know, find other humans or resources or something. Daylight, at least I can see where something is and I have a better shot.
Do you want it to have a human intelligence or like an animal intelligence?
God, I'm scared. I don't like this question. I'm scared. I don't know.
Because if it's a person... Presumably they have like a vested interest in finding specifically you.
I know. I guess an animal intelligence, but the thing is, I also think then it's wild. If it finds me, it's going to absolutely wild out on me.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to go nuts.
It's not like a tiger.
Yeah.
Or like a xenomorph, right? Like an animalistic, like it wants you. But if you do manage to go hide in a tree, it might find a different kind of prey and run off after it.
Right.
Human intelligence, it's going to be like, I know you're up there. I'm going to get you. I'm going to wait.
It's so much more emotionally
You have to come down sometime.
Yeah, right.
Talking to you and taunting you.
Oh my God. Be much more emotionally disturbing.
So what do you want, human or animal?
I guess animal. I guess. At least it can't speak to me.
You just hope that you are able to somehow move faster than it. Or it was very far away when it started chasing you. It gives you a chance to, I guess in your example, for some reason, scamper up a tree.
I didn't even say anything about a tree.
You didn't?
No.
Why did I picture you climbing a tree?
Why would I ever posit that? I can't.
Where are you
climb a
hiding?
tree.
Where are you hiding?
I don't know. In a grassy knoll.
Oh, that's terrible.
Hobbit
That
hole.
sounds awful.
I don't know.
Where the hell are you going to find a hobbit hole?
I don't know. It's the apocalypse, man. Who knows where I've traveled to? Under a pile of leaves.
That's true. Yeah. I think that I want a... I think I'm going to go animal intelligence because it implies to me that they could get distracted.
Right.
Their need for me is probably they saw a big, juicy, fat bird. That's a juicy bird, he said, licking his lips, and came trying to get me. And then somehow, yes, I did scamper up a tree. And then it hears another survivor somewhere and is like, well, this guy's up a tree. I'll go get that guy.
Can you climb a tree?
No. God, no. No, I'd be doing the same thing you're doing. I'd be like trying to hide in a hole.
Yeah, something on the ground.
Find a hole down.
Yeah.
Something where gravity works with me.
Absolutely.
Not working against gravity.
No.
Unless it's been the apocalypse so long that I'm like all ripped and fit. But so that's what I...
so weird if like somehow we got separated and then we came back together and you found me. I've found like an abandoned house somewhere and I have like a Rambo thing around my head and I'm like super ripped.
Get in.
Yeah. Whoa.
Baby bro.
Yeah.
Get in.
Weird.
This my house.
No.
What happened to you?
This can't happen.
What the hell happened to you?
This cannot happen.
I want it to be an animal intelligence that might get distracted.
Yeah.
What I don't want it to be is of seemingly human intelligence and undeterred.
Right.
No Michael Myers. No, It Follows.
No.
That's what I don't want because that just seems like an inevitable ticking clock.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, I find it inevitable either way. It's going to get me, what I'm thinking. And I think I'm going to be less upset when it gets me if it's an animal than a human.
Yeah. All right. That's another way of looking at it where you're screaming because this like lion's ripping you apart, but then
Right,
you're
as
like,
opposed to a human who's
he's
like...
kind of cute.
Well, I mean, imagine humans like looking at me crazy and
Look,
like
he's enjoying his meal.
what would normally be a human connection is somebody who's either dead behind the eyes looking at me or saying messed up things to me, and I don't want it.
Yeah. Michael Myers doing that like head tilt
I can't,
or whatever.
I can't have it.
Or a lion where you're like, oh, he's made a yummy sound. I must be tasty.
Right.
At least I'm happy.
At least there's that.
At least I'm so happy that I'm so delicious.
Yeah.
Well, there's your answer to your question. What
Yeah.
we hope and what we hope not.
Totally. Oof.
A lot of hopes and fears, concerns, opinions, hot takes.
All rolled up into
Delightful.
one.
Everybody delightful.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for all of these questions. I love them, honestly. Thank you very, very much. If you would like to send us hot takes for us to bat around, hypotheticals to do the same with, questions to answer, words that you've noticed that we give a weird amount of shits about, like supper. You can email gttupod@gmail.com and we will get to them eventually. We only do episodes like this like a handful of times a year, not very often.
Yeah.
But don't you worry, we will get to it, and we love these questions and appreciate them. So thank you so much. gttupod@gmail.com.
A delight.
A delight.
A feast for the senses.
That's right.
Also consider checking out patreon.com/gttupod to support us, get access to the Netherworld Dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
You can also follow @gttupod. You'll see when we go live or when we're releasing shows. Perhaps even follow us individually.
Maybe. I'm @Chillin' Kristen.
And I am @The Myth Traveler. So thank you all so much for your excellent questions, your spicy ass hot takes.
Yep.
We'll be back next week with something else. But until that time comes, we must travel.
Back to the Netherworld, go we. Hopefully into a low to the ground bunker of some sort, probably nature made.
Isn't it funny that neither one of us, when we're like, what do you wish you were being stalked by? Neither one of us was like,
nothing.
A little mouse.
Oh, well.
You know, like, I don't know, a fly.
I mean.
A Smurf. Wouldn't it be kind of cool to see a Smurf in real life?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Ryan says I look like a Smurf when my hair's all messy. I think he's thinking of, like, that hat.
The hat? Like,
I think.
He thinks your hair looks like a little white Smurf hat?
Well, I think because my hair can stand straight up because it's, like, short enough.
Huh.
I don't know. But he just says you look like a Smurf or whatever. And it's just, like, a funny thing. So, I guess...
Chris, what the Smurf is he talking about?
Is that...
That's how the Smurfs talk.
Oh, yeah. I don't really remember Smurfs.
No one does.
Yeah. I don't know.